Welcome to the RogueHead Huddle with Gooch and Keys, presented by RGR Football. This is your boy Gooch.
That is Keys, and the man to my other side is the national treasure, Jeff Porter himself.
Special
What's
guest
up?
Jeff
What's
Porter.
going on? Good to be with you guys.
This is going to be
go ahead and pay the bills. Triple amazing.
Well, all right. Obviously, we appreciate anybody that watches this content, whether religiously or in passing. Make sure you go back, check out all the other videos on RGR, subscribe, hit the bell, like, become a member, join us, the three of us, along with the Modfather and Discord. Check out the RGR store, get you a hoodie. I think there's mugs in there. I think Ryan says he's even working on some winter stuff. We're about to have some fun. Take this walk with us, guys.
Hey, we always do, don't we?
Yes, we do. This is going to be amazing.
We're just gonna hit it off with this nice big one here. How are you feeling about the AFC West after we've had our bye week here, our week to relax and not have elevated heart rate for 3.5 hours?
Is it possible for fans to need a bye week?
Oh man!
Tell you what, the bye week kind of felt like the timing was perfect for the Chiefs, but yeah, how do we feel about the AFC West? I did some snooping around on the World Wide Web, and what I came up with was that most of us know that the Chiefs have won the division for the last 5 years, right? 3 weeks ago, Kansas City was tied for last place in the West. 1 week ago, KC launches itself up to first place. For remaining strength of schedule on the ESPN Football Power Index, Chargers are 29th on strength of schedule. So they got it easiest out of everybody in the division. Kansas City is 20th, Denver's 14th, and Las Vegas is 12th. So give the edge to the Chargers there. Everybody's got one loss in the division, right? What do the other three teams do well? The Chargers, FPI overall offense is excellent. They're fourth. Las Vegas is second in pass yards per game. Denver is third in points allowed. They're fifth in giveaways. So, the other AFC West teams have some good points. If Kansas City can go 4-2 in division, the Chiefs win the West. I think it's that simple. We are 1-1 at this moment. I think the big key is we've got to beat the Chargers. What are you guys thinking? Do you see us being able to win the division if we lose to the Chargers?
I don't know that I've actually thought about it in those terms. I've just kind of thought about it in the sense of, I know last week we talked about can the Chiefs run the table coming off the bye, and certainly I think that they can. I mean, the first game was a close game. We beat the Chargers the first game last year, and Herbert and the Chargers had a really hard time beating our backups in the second game when we were resting everybody, right? I believe it was tied through the first half of that game going up against our backups.
Yep.
And the Chargers, if I recall correctly, are either last or they're like in the last 2 or 3 or 4 in rush defense, and so I think they're going to have a bit of a harder stretch than what their remaining schedule strength may suggest. So I'm avoiding answering your question, Jeff. I guess that would be a yes. I guess I do think it's possible that they can lose both and still win the AFC West, but I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen necessarily. Stooch?
Well, the AFC West, aside from being probably one of the tougher divisions in the NFL, actually probably the toughest division in the NFL. If you go look around at all the other teams who are falling off, it was like we talked about earlier with Alabama. It seems like when we play we don't play up to our potential when we play teams that may be a step behind us, and then we seem to overplay our hand when we're playing against like everybody else. Or the offense stalls. Either the defense is great or the offense stalls. I mean, the AFC West, I think we can win it. I think Herbert's going through some growing pains. I don't know about his coach. I mean, he seemed great. But the thing that makes the AFC West so interesting to me is I've said for the whole time the Broncos were going to be terrible, but their secondary was going to be great. Their secondary is built to stop the Chiefs. And they put a little handle on the Cowboys. I mean, it just shows you like they can play. They just don't have the offensive firepower. And I'm worried about what happens when we become their Super Bowl. How much better they're going to play. Obviously, nobody's going to run with Tyreek, but Mahomes has shown a penchant for not being patient. And if he gets frustrated in the beginning, I could see some bad things happening. But overall, I think if we can go, what Jeff say, 4-2.
Yeah, if we can go 4-2, yeah.
I think that wins the division. I think that's 6 times in a row. I have this weird feeling that one of these next 2 years is Andy's curtain call. And I think there's going to be some emphasis put on going out in style. If not by him, because he's way too humble to be like, yo, I want to go out like this. But I think from the players, I think he can sense it around the team. I think maybe that's why we've been so, I won't say bad, but it seems like we're pressing because somebody in that building thinks Andy's not going to be around long, and they want to take him out of the one championship winner, you know what I'm saying? And obviously he's going to get a gold jacket, but there's a special place when you're discussing coaches when they have multiple Super Bowl championships. And I think maybe the desire, maybe Mahomes knows, maybe the team knows, but there's a desire, I think, to get back and win one for Andy's ride out, whether it be for EB to take over the coaching job or just to give Andy some rest because of all the stuff. I mean, this guy, he's got. It's going to sound weird when I say he's got to be the unluckiest lucky person on the planet. I mean, look what he went through with the Eagles, and he lost a son, and then he came here, and he finally got a Super Bowl after the Belcher incident, and now he has another son thing, and he's 60-something years old. I mean, I think he might be ready to just ride out into the sunset. Him and Belichick together. Belichick says he's not going to coach past 70. And Belichick is 69. So I could see them going out together kind of like, all right, guys, we're out of here. But yeah, the question, I think we're great in the AFC West. I think we win 6 in a row and playoff bound. And if everybody keeps losing, number 1 seed.
Hey, if I look at the other 3 teams in our division, is Vegas good enough to win? No, they got turmoil everywhere. You know, they got the toughest remaining schedule out of the 4 teams, despite a nice win in Dallas. And they probably need to go 5-1 in their remaining 6 games and win all of their 3, remaining division games. Is Denver good enough to win the West? Bridgewater's got to stay healthy. The Week 12 win over the Chargers was huge and gives Denver a slight chance, but not much. Are the Chargers good enough to win the West? Their play in the last 6 games for them says no. They started 4-1 and then they went 2-4. So I feel that December 16th game, the Chiefs traveling to that big old monster SoFi Stadium. Is that what it's called? I think that's going to be the game that will probably determine at least who's leading the division at that point.
I think also too. I think a lot of things that don't get you can't quantify is the Chiefs have been there, and so for them, the stage isn't going to be too big. So I mean, for them, it would be just another game, whereas for everybody else, it's it's the Chiefs. They won the division so many years in a row. It's a big game, and the Chiefs are just going to go out there like it's Sunday, And I think that's where an advantage is for us, which is why I feel confident now that we're in the first that the division is basically locked up. I'm sure Andy already has the shirts made. You know what I'm saying? Just waiting to whip them out.
Yeah, I think given that game being away is a huge advantage for us because one, we haven't necessarily played our best at Arrowhead the last 2 or 3 years, but two, it's still basically going to be a home game the way the crowd will be. So it's like a home game away from Arrowhead, so it's almost exactly what you need to win. I think the other thing though is if we see on offense the changes that we need and the changes that we're expecting, it's none of those other factors are really going to matter because somehow we've managed to win the last 4 games basically on the strength of our defense while being very up and down inconsistent on offense and really not ever outside of the Raiders game, not ever really looking like a fine tuned offense for the most part. And if we come out fine tuned at all on offense off the bye week for the rest of the season, I mean, I think it's nightmare prep to play the Chiefs again. And so I don't think a lot of those things are going to matter anymore if we come out the way the offense, how we expected it should look.
Well, Andy said after because they asked him in a press conference, did he look at some things? Did he change some things? And he jokingly said, "I'm not going to tell you guys that." He's like, "Obviously, we like to deep dive every day and every week, but the one thing, it's like I think it's one of the things that I said. Um, First of all, if Andy's deep diving, then he obviously sees like he never likes to make a lot of changes during the season, like until the bye. So everything that I think he's been doing has been kind of been, by the book, Andy book. And then at the bye, we're going to dig in. We're going to see what's wrong. And I said in another episode, one of the things you can count on besides death and taxes is Andy Reid after a bye when he gets a chance to kind of dig in. And Andy Reid is a brilliant offensive mind, and he knows. Like we preached about it, Ryan's talked about it. Oh, you need to do more of this, that, and the other. Andy Reid knows, but you don't. I can't think of the right analogy, but you don't want to sit there and throw a rock in the middle of the ocean when you're going one way, and then you risk losing that continuity. And so instead of 4 in a row, like you and I discussed, Keys, you 1 and 3, because all of a sudden you decided that, well, this isn't working. Let's break all these habits that we've been doing and try to do something else. And now you're trying to learn something different, play something different. Whereas during the bye, you can implement that when the guys start getting back. Hey, we're going to change it up, yada, yada, yada. Man, I just got lost in a tangent, but you know what I'm saying.
It's a gooch tangent.
Yeah, we know it. We know what you're saying. Yeah, we get what you're saying there. So,
Yep.
yeah. Well, do we have any more we want to talk about how we're feeling about the AFC West? Feeling
No,
pretty
I
good.
got nothing else. What's that?
Said feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Overall, I'm very optimistic, feeling good. I like our chances, and there's no reason why we shouldn't start things off with a win this coming weekend. How's that for a segue?
I also think I'm sorry to screw up the segue, that was really good. I also think that the Chiefs are really sneaking back up on people. I don't know if a lot of y'all, like, to me, this feels like the Super Bowl year, where it's kind of like nobody's really talking about us. They kind of forgot about us. and we're just now starting to round into form. And before you realize, oh crap, the Chiefs are the Chiefs again. You know what I'm saying? It's too late, and we're on a run. You know what I mean? And I think I said in the beginning of the season, I think me and Keith talked about where I said some of these guys are spoiled. But I think as Chris has gone back inside and Clark has decided to get healthy and play more, and Ingram, who's been the brightest spot on this defense, has made it a lot easier to get pressure. I think people are still looking at the offense, but not realizing our defense has only given up 11 a game the last 4 games. And the Super Bowl season, that last half of the season, they were giving up less than 15 over the last 8 games. So it almost seems like we're figuring it out while you're still crowning New England and Buffalo and Lamar and I mean, I would normally say Cleveland, but let's face it, Baker's going to be playing in Houston next year.
Maybe the XFL.
Johnny Manziel 2.0.
There you go.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because when we were talking about that, the analogy I had in my head, and I realized that Halloween was a month ago, but it's kind of like when you actually get into the car and you back up and hit Jason Voorhees, and so you see him lying on the ground, and you take off and you're driving your car and you're trying to get out of Camp Crystal Lake, and you see him in the rearview mirror and he's still down on the road, and you're driving, and a half mile down the road he's in front of you, type of thing. And I think that's kind of how this AFC West is played out right now. Is everyone got their lead over the Chiefs early on and saw us laying on the ground and started trying to book it out, to make it into the playoffs. And then up there ahead of them on the road now is the Chiefs standing there waiting on them.
Well, and the thing is like, and you had the first 7 games of the season was the best time to put your foot on the Chiefs' neck, and like basically, you could have easily ended playoff hopes early, because regardless of how our defense is playing now, they were a leaky faucet in the beginning. Like, not even leaky; it was running water. Like, you could have easily went through them, and now, like you said, like it might be a little too late. Like, you let us hang around long enough, eventually you have to come to road has to go back through Arrowhead, and nobody wants to play in Arrowhead in January.
Yeah.
I don't even
And
want
with
to go to Arrowhead. I don't even want to go to Arrowhead in January, let alone play a football game in there. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No, I just said, yeah, man, I was agreeing with you. It's looking good, and although our regular season record at Arrowhead over the last couple of years, as you mentioned, may not be the best, you do not want to be a visiting team in the playoffs coming to Kansas City. We figured out a way to start winning once we got Mahomes in the playoffs at home. So there you go.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and segue now. We have Jeff on the show, and Jeff's thrown out some stats for us already. So let's hit this topic about as fans, how should we use or how should we accept analytics? How should it inform our fan opinions?
Yeah, what a great question. I tried to come up with my own words about what the heck is NFL analytics, and I couldn't come up with anything. So I started researching, and what I came up with are, some examples of what I learned of NFL analytics is, Keys references these a lot: expected points and expected points added. The expected points provides a baseline for certain situations, and expected points added measures if a player or team performs better or worse in that situation than expected. Other examples of analytics are statistical tendencies, notable trends, that kind of stuff of an opponent. So if you know of these tendencies and trends ahead of time, far enough ahead of time, when you implement your game plan, you can try to exploit those tendencies and trends of the opponent. It's fairly obvious that, again, it needs to get to your coach's hands early, the week before you play an opponent, maybe even 2 weeks before if you can get it that soon. But during the off season, there might be league-wide studies being done by your analytics team. That an example of that is the success rate of a quarterback sneak on a short yardage situation, right? On a simple play like that, you can look at offensive linemen, you can look at quarterback footwork, and see how that play becomes successful to get you a first down. Now, for my man Mahomes, who happens to have rubber bands for tendons around his knees, maybe the quarterback sneak isn't, an analytic that the Chiefs would necessarily look at. So, to answer the question, I think some fans just want to watch a game on Sunday. And then there's other ones that want to know the stats and the strengths and weaknesses of their favorite team. And then there are some fans that enjoy learning the analytics and getting into the trends and tendencies. So I feel if you want to go check them out, get into them, great. And if you want to ignore analytics, that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that. But understand that as a fan, if your eye test and your opinion may not match up with some of these analytics, then you might have somebody getting on you.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very well said. And I do think that it's kind of a balance. The way that I view analytics is it's a group of people's way of trying to understand and control the world. It's like bringing science into football. And for some people, I mean, we can look at this, in things other than just sports. We can think of it in other ways, like even though it's not the same, because this has to do with statistics and math and so, but it's kind of like you can watch a movie and you can watch a movie to be entertained, right? Or you can watch a movie, you can notice the type of lighting that they use, whether the type of focus that they use on a given shot, uh, the musical score, all these dynamics that can go in, and we know it better with like classical movies, but all these different things that can go in and make a great movie. But then there's some people who just, they don't entertain me, and that's all I care about. Give me a great story. Um, to some extent, they don't even care if the acting is great. Just give me a great story, those types of things. And so, I think that's kind of an analogy for us here with football and analytics is, there's people who just want to watch the game and be entertained. I have my grandfather hated football. He thought it was like a Neanderthal sport. And so, analytics would, if he could understand them, analytics would let him know it's very much a cerebral game. It's not a Neanderthal sport. There's a lot of intelligence involved in football, a lot of strategy. And so, yeah, I think you're right there. I do think it should be a mix though. I think you can go to one extreme or the other. And you're allowed to have your own opinions, and that's fine. But if you want to start arguing opinions, analytics is a way that helps us begin to kind of quantify things. It attempts to objectify things. The problem is though, is it's still somewhat subjective, right? And so we have to keep
It can
that
be, yeah.
in mind as well. So, um, yeah, Gooch, you look like you want to say something.
No, I got plenty. First of all, sorry, Ryan, but because Ryan Tracy runs an analytics firm or whatever,
Yeah.
analytics isn't anything new. it seems new because we, as the common fan, are now getting invested into it. But prior to it becoming the key thing or the in vogue thing, we already had analytics. We called them the third team videographer, or in some cases, we called them legendary head coaches, Vince Lombardi, Hank Stram, and all those guys, because they would watch the film and they would look at them like, oh, so on 4th down and 1 from here around these times, they generally like to run a sweep. So they already knew most of these, or they had somebody watching telling them the tendencies. They just weren't called analytics, they were called game planning. And maybe it's because I'm, as Keys would say, super old, complete with Walker, but I'm an eye test guy because analytics doesn't tell me how much heart that dude has, how his instincts are going to play out. And prime example, nobody viewed Bolton, the Chiefs linebacker, as a second round pick, but you can't account for the fact that that dude's around the ball every single play because the analytics say he shouldn't be. But he is.
No. Whoa. Time out. Because Ryan is good at this. Ryan will tell you he has for each position, even, right? It's not even the same. He has analytics for each position, like his ball. I think one is his ball hawk rate. I forget what it is for linebackers and defensive linemen, but he has sets of analytics that measure these things that what you would call heart or hustle or, having a motor, like a constantly running motor
A
like
nose for the ball.
in some way, right? He has taken the time to pick out the position specific things that would help us understand, like for instance, how well a defensive lineman follows through when he's getting pressure, or how great
Now,
a
now I get that, but he didn't even have Bolton as a second round pick. But Bolton's playing like one. He had Bolton as a late third. Anybody else would have picked him up. That's a steal, which we got, obviously. I mean, who else? Snead wasn't even a second round, was he? He was 4th.
I don't remember.
I mean, a lot of these guys don't grade out analytically well. I mean, now, of course, you're going to always be right on some. Derek Johnson. I mean, everybody knew he was going to be a stud, but I mean, had Breland not got hurt, does Snead end up the way of Bo P. Keys? Because analytics say he should have been a safety. I mean, I would never try to make this argument because when Ryan watches this, I'm sure we could have a long old argument that I would lose. I'm just simply saying that for me, I think there's a place for analytics. I just don't think it should be the end all be all. Now, I'm with Jeff. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to have a long standing argument, the best way to have a good, concise debate is to understand both sides of the equation. And I don't look into Keys is great at that, like you said, Jeff, with the estimated points and all that stuff. I am not that. I can look and be like, we should be way more successful than what we are, based
Right.
on based on the talent that we have around us, and I can see the game. And I'm not like by no means a savant, but I played, and so I can see the open routes and stuff like that. Like, oh, you should have hit this guy down here, but it doesn't mean like I could never walk into an analytics fight and go, oh, I know this. Um, I just,
Right.
for my personal liking, which is what we do here, different opinions on the huddle. I'm more of an eye test guy. Like for me, analytics, and maybe it's because I don't know how to look at them. Analytics wouldn't tell me that Bolton, as Jeff said, has a nose for the football. Some way is able to find it when everything that I have heard is that he can't shed blocks, and it seems like that's all he's doing. Um, that's my take on it. You got anything, Keith?
Yeah, I'm going to answer back on the Bolton thing. I believe now the reason Ryan had Bolton graded as a third round linebacker was because athletically he's not a three down linebacker. And so that's more of a philosophical thing of is a two down linebacker worth a second round pick, which, isn't all dissimilar from our is a running back worth a first round pick, argument. The other thing I'm going to point to is the fantastic video that Gooch shared with me a couple weeks ago, and it was on the LeBron versus MJ GOAT debate, which really isn't a GOAT debate at all. But from a fan perspective, you know, people have their opinions and they argue from their eye test. Well, this video used a combination of that, but went into the analytics to show how, in my opinion, how laughable it is to even mention LeBron in the same breath as Michael Jordan. And so 30 minutes of analytics, breaking everything down. But one of the important things was that with that was the context, right? One, you have to have good analytics. It has to tell you something that is smart and usable, just like anything else with science and math. But two, you have to understand the context with it. Um, I think a lot of times it's kind of like you said, your eye tells you something. And so analytics can help either can help you to either to quantify what you're seeing really. And sometimes we missee stuff as other people out there who were defending Sorensen up and down, the hill. We've seen and the analytics show how much better the Chiefs' defense got when Sorensen's snaps decreased dramatically. So, I don't know. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I think there's a place for it. It depends on how informed we want to be and how solid of a foundation we want our opinion to be on. If we just want to have our opinion, if we just want to snort our lines of Kool-Aid and love our certain guys, or love our team and hold to our opinion, fine. We don't need analytics. But if we want to understand if what we're seeing actually translates to what is quantifiable, then we can use analytics to an extent to kind of correct us when we may be wrong, to give us confirmation bias when it confirms what we're seeing, so it just kind of depends.
Before Jeff gets the last word, I'd like to point out that nobody on this panel voted for Sorensen or wanted Sorensen to see more snaps. I'm just wanting to get that there.
My favorite Kool-Aid flavor to snort is black cherry. I just want to make that clear.
That's a good one. Black cherry, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it should be cherry and or strawberry, cherry and lemonade at the same time, right? You're gonna have
Now
chief
the
collars.
analytics show orange and lemonade is the best flavor. That's my own personal study from the Brian Gooch Kool-Aid Analytics firm.
But isn't that Broncos collars?
Watch it.
That's why I said cherry and lemonade because you have red and gold there.
Well, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
I'm with you.
I was tapping into my toxic fandom there, so that's my fault.
Well, I mean,
They're still gonna kick me off of YouTube.
speaking of Gooch's favorite team, let's just go ahead and go there a little early today. We'll beat the
Sweet
Broncos.
Jesus.
We'll beat the Broncos yet.
All right. ESPN's matchup predictor has Kansas City 68% chance to win, right? So if they played 100 times, Chiefs would win 68 of them. Kansas City's on 4-game win streak, beat the Giants, the Rodgersless Packers, the Raiders, the Cowboys. Broncos have won 3 of 4. They beat Washington, the Cowboys, and Chargers, and they lost to the Eagles. Broncos averaging 29 plus over their last 3 games. Crazy. ESPN FPI says Kansas City wins by 3.1 points on a neutral field. Interestingly enough, that same football power index says that Denver has the easiest strength of schedule so far, in games past, while Kansas City's got the 8th toughest. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, Denver's sitting fat and happy at, what are they, 6-5? So, my thought is that the Chiefs will beat Denver if the Chiefs make an appearance. If the team arrives at the field, I think Kansas City's going to win. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be drinking my $11 beer. I'm going to be yelling obscenities. I'm going to be there with my brother and my 10-year-old nephew. I'm going to be yelling obscenities. But seriously, it's going to come down to turnovers. If Kansas City can be even, or they can come out on the plus side and get more takeaways than giveaways, it's that simple to me. It means that the Chiefs defense took advantage of opportunities, and it means that that and or the Chiefs offensive line protected Mahomes well on 80% of the dropbacks.
Well,
I'm going to steal a little bit from Gooch.
Go ahead.
I'm going to steal a little bit from you, Gooch, and I'm going to say if somebody's plane doesn't land, well, I'm going to change it a little bit. If Carl Cheffers and his cruise plane does not land, the Chiefs win. And I know Ryan won't criticize the refs, but we all know that they've been horrible all season long, and it's not just Chiefs games, it is overall. But Carl Cheffers' crew leads the NFL in most penalties called at 168 through 11 games. I'm sounding like Jeff now, right?
Yeah,
And,
my man.
And this is the same guy that was the ref for our 2016 divisional game, playoff game against the Steelers. This is also the same ref who was the ref for the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers last year, and also the same ref who was the ref for our game against the Bills this year. So be prepared for a lot of penalties. Be prepared for a lot of our offensive plays to get called back for holding. Be prepared for our defense to get screwed over multiple times by phantom defensive pass interference calls, and prepare for an ugly game is all I'm going to say. I'm just going to give that one tidbit, and then I'll come back after I let you go ahead and
no,
say
go
what
ahead.
you want to say.
Do your thing, baby. Do your thing. Go ahead and finish up.
All right, fine. Well, I really do think that is going to be an annoyingly huge this game, which just makes me disgusted, but we've seen it multiple times all season long, whether it's a ref sticking out his butt so he can then throw a flag on a player for taunting, or I don't know if you guys saw the picture, the mock picture of all the flags from the other day. But,
we're taunting keys right now.
Well, Kansas City is going to get a flag thrown for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, well, one, Teddy's not playing, right? We have Locke playing again.
That I don't know. Gooch, you got any information?
Is Teddy Two Gloves not playing? I hadn't heard. I thought he was good to go.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he is, but Denver lost their left tackle, which is going to be very tragic for them if our defensive line continues to feast the way they looked like they're going to be feasting the last couple of weeks. So
yeah, we're recording this on Tuesday night, so we don't know just yet.
You have Ingram, you have what we supposed to be healthy Frank. We now have a week off,
Frank.
and Spags has a week to hopefully look at the analytics to look at the game film, to use all of the things at his disposal to make the correct decisions moving forward. You know what they are. All of us know what they are, except for a couple of people out there. Put down your Kool-Aid. No. And so I think that this could be a fairly ugly game. You know, we talked about the Dallas game being a test for our defense. And
Right.
they were without Tyron Smith, and they were without Cooper for the game. And then, you know, the second half of the game, they were without Lamb. Now,
Right.
Cooper and Lamb and Smith are better than anything Denver has to offer on offense. That's no offense, you know, that's no offense to Tim Patrick or to Cortland Sutton or to KJ Hamler or to Noah Fant. But I think Dallas's offense is just much better than Denver's offense. So I'm expecting if we can shut down, because we did, even with CeeDee Lamb for the first half, we shut down Lamb and and Gallup and Schultz and Zeke and Pollard. Like we can shut down their running game, and we can shut down two or three of their receivers. I don't know if Matthew's going to be on Noah Fant or not, but with the uptick in play from Snead and Fenton and Ward, again, Carl Jeffers penalty flags not flying all the place withheld from this. I don't think that Denver's offense is going to have a very fun day. Defensively for Denver or offensively for us, you know, again, this is where I think the big question mark comes in. Are we going to see an improved offense coming off the bye? And, you know, I think this will be a great test. If the offense comes out and it looks anything close to or even between what we saw against the Raiders and what we saw against the Cowboys, I think it's going to be a good omen for the rest of the season because Denver does have a great pass defense. And so, you know, if we can come out even somewhere between those two games, if the offense looks somewhere between those two games, I think it'll be a good thing. Because if they looked like they did against the Raiders against this defense, I think that would be, you know, jaw-droppingly amazing. But I don't. I think that's a way, way, way too big of an ask. So anywhere between what we saw against the Raiders and what we saw against the Cowboys, and you know, I don't think there's anything Denver can do to win.
That was brilliant. First of all,
Sorry, guys, that was my phone. Go Gooch.
it's all good. First of all, everybody's giving, oh, the Cowboys were without this and without that and without this.
Yes.
And it's funny that there's excuses for that. But when we were without a bunch of people, the question was, what's wrong with the Chiefs? Now, I'm just going to go there because the Cowboys are doing what Cowboys do. And I dislike Stephen A. Smith, but the Cowboys are doing what they do every year. Just like he said, just wait. Eventually, the Cowboys, I mean, it's almost like the same thing. The Cowboys are going to rate it, basically. So it's just a matter of time. They just happen to hit their swing. Now, I'm going to roll here lately with this because I said the Chiefs would beat the Packers if Aaron Rodgers got COVID, and he got COVID. And I said the Chiefs would beat the Raiders if Derek Carr remembered that he was Derek Carr, and guess what? He remembered he was Derek Carr. And we would beat the Cowboys if they tried to go throw for throw between Dak and Mahomes. And here we go again. So we will beat the Broncos if now there's caveats to both of these. If Teddy Two Gloves is playing, if Teddy remembers that he's a backup and not a starter for the Vikings anymore, or if Drew Lock doesn't try to win his starting position back because he'll be back home in Missouri. Because, I mean, for all nobody likes Drew Lock, but I went to some of his games in high school and watched him in college. That kid can throw the football. He is actually a fairly decent quarterback. Like he has the tools. I don't know if maybe the game is too fast for him or it just hasn't caught up, but the kid has gifts. He's not Mahomes, but if he's comfortable, he's a little less than Herbert because he can run and he has a cannon. And don't be hot taking me. Um, and the defense reverts back to what they were. Patrick Surtain the second and a bunch of guys.
Question,
Vaughn's
Gooch.
gone. Yeah.
Is Drew Lock a national treasure?
Well, it's interesting enough. I wouldn't call Drew Lock a national treasure. There's not a single. You know what? If we were talking national treasures in football, the list would probably have to start with Joe Montana. In my personal opinion, I mean, you know what? Watch the Rogue Life if you want my opinion on this. It should have dropped by the time you see this. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. The Broncos lose. The Chiefs win if the Broncos defense doesn't play like they played against Dallas, and whoever the quarterback is remembers that they're always going to be second best in the AFC West. Actually, if you want me to be honest, fourth best. I mean, because Derek Carr is better. Obviously, Herbert is better, and then there's the king of the West. Oh, Pat Daddy Mahomes. That's my take on it right there. You see the jersey.
There you go.
That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that Fant has the same number of receptions as Sutton does, but Sutton's yards per catch is like 14 yards a catch, and Fant's like 8.7. So, if you want to talk about in terms of eating up yardage down the field, Sutton needs our attention from our secondary.
Right, but we definitely don't want Sorensen on Fant.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
you and I, the three of us have seen it, right? On third down, if Sorensen lines up man to man on somebody, it's most.
I think he's the only
end.
guy ever in the. I think he's the only guy ever in the history of football to have a perfect passer rating against him. Like it's like offenses come out and they go, where's 49? Where's oh, there he is.
Yeah, that was the meme where Carr was, falling backwards. And,
oh yeah,
49's down there somewhere.
49's down there somewhere.
That's right.
I may or may not have made that one myself.
You're not going to claim it, but you were thinking.
That's legendary, Keys.
I may or may not have. That's all I'll say.
Nice.
Makes it even better that he absolutely hates the Raiders. So it's probably a lot of fun in making that one.
Hey, now I lived in the Denver metro area for 15 years, guys. This might be kind of handy type stuff. And being a Chiefs fan in Denver for the 90s and then half of the 2000s, that was an interesting time. And I went to quite a few Chiefs Broncos games there at Mile High, and it was really interesting to get the perspective of the Broncos fans losing their collective minds about everything that was happening at that time.
All right, but I believe it, and that's something we haven't even mentioned yet. Is this is an AFC West game, so there is a good chance that Sorensen will make a clutch play in this game because traditionally he has made a clutch play in every AFC West game. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Here. Let me put this on there. I should have said that before, but I mean it's true. He does make. Even this year, he has continued to make his clutch play against an AFC West
Oh
team.
my God, are we actually praising Sorensen? Really? We
Well, he
actually
had that
took the
pick
time.
six
I have actually
last year.
wasted breath listening to Sorensen approval ratings and stuff. Are you kidding me? That guy should be giving out water. He should be waiting for the guys to come to the bench. Hey, you thirsty? Here's a squirt. He should not be on clutch play. He took the interception from Thornhill. I knew it. I knew it because look, Keys, you have been on Sorensen all year long, and I said it after he made that interception. I said, "Dang it, he just got another 3-year contract off that one interception."
Now. Out of all the clutch plays he's gotten the last few years, he keeps getting 1-year deals. So I don't think this bottom 3 years. And
I'm not
he
sure.
can wait. Time out. He can be on the field and still get guys water. You seen the Buffalo Bills play where he ran over to the sideline to get water. So I mean, he can do both.
and I want to talk about these clutch plays in AFC West games. We do remember that the guys that he's making these clutch plays off of are Phillip, all I throw is interceptions, Rivers, Derek Carr, and what and whatever supermarket bagger they roll off the street in Denver every Sunday to come throw the football. Those are his clutch plays.
No, I do believe he does have one against Herbert. Jeff, do you remember? I believe he did pick off Herbert,
Nope,
didn't he?
I don't
I
know.
don't
I don't
think so.
remember. I mean, last year he had the pick six against Denver in the snow. I remember that. But, this year with Herbert, I don't remember.
You know who would know? Dirty Thunder.
I'm gonna go
I could
gray
be
and pull
wrong.
my hair out. Next topic.
All right,
Oh,
let's move
if
on here.
everybody's noticed, Keys has shaved his beard from No Shave November.
There's a good looking
So
By the
man
now
time they
underneath
see
all
this,
that
it'll be
hair. How about
December.
that?
he is done
All
with the
right,
beard.
let's go to something less controversial. I at least expect anyway here. Go ahead if you want to.
I was just gonna say that picture you showed me. You kind of look like Jack Black in year one. I was just year one because he had that big bushy beard. That's what that I was trying to pinpoint it. And sorry guys, on with the show. My apologies. Hi.
All right, let's go ahead and let's hit this one. Young backup quarterback, plus the QB coach or the vet backup quarterback. And I'm gonna give some backstory on this one. It was on Twitter now, I think a couple weeks ago, and Nick Jacobs, I believe is who it was talking about this and how um, he believed that the Chiefs, well, the word he used was that they would always have a vet backup quarterback. And I don't think he necessarily meant always as long as Mahomes was here. But that's what his tweet kind of communicated is that they would always have a vet backup quarterback here so that Mahomes could bounce ideas off of them. And so one of my arguments is that I think we're close to the point now where we don't need a vet quarterback as a backup. I mean, this is year 5 for Mahomes, right? We can bring
Yeah.
in a young backup quarterback, and Mahomes can be bouncing those things off of his quarterback coach. Maybe this is a novel idea, but I don't think we need to keep Chad Henne for the next 2 or 3 years. I think we can finally get to the point where we bring in a young backup and Mahomes can bounce things off of his quarterback coach and or Andy Reid. What are your guys' thoughts on this topic?
Well, I think this is a really interesting question, and as I got to thinking about it, to give an answer on the show, what I came up with is that it seems to me that if you Well, the bottom line is you want, in my opinion, you want an opposite of your existing starting quarterback. So, like you said, Mahomes is in his fifth year. Next year, 5+1, carry the 8. That's 6. So, I agree with you. If my philosophy is right, if my philosophy sits right, it might be time to grab a quarterback in the second or third round, whatever, get a young quarterback as your backup. Now that Mahomes would be, a grizzled veteran starting his sixth season. If you got an old quarterback like Wilson or old man Brady or whatever, I think it's a good idea to have a young quarterback. If you've got a rookie starting, I think it would be a good idea to have a veteran there. And, obviously, if you've got the young quarterback, as you posed in the question there in yellow, you want a quarterback's coach that is, long in the tooth, has a good grasp of what's going on, and can help that young backup along.
Right. Gooch?
I actually am going to mold your two opinions together because I think the answer is, and Jeff said part of it, you said part of it too. I think it was great in Mahomes 1 through 4 to have Henny and as the vet to kind of but the problem is that now Mahomes is the vet, and according to everybody that's played with Mahomes, the kid has iron trap memory. He sees everything, which is almost like basically like Peyton Manning, like he sees everything. And so even though he's making his mistakes now, he knows what he's doing. He usually doesn't make the same mistake twice. I mean, obviously, take this year, for instance, he has all these interceptions. But what people don't realize is the interceptions, 80% of them are thrown where they're supposed to be. They're just falling out of receivers' hands. So he's learning and doing what he's supposed to do. So I think, and this is where I'm going to mold the two together, grab the young backup, make the quarterback's coach the vet quarterback. Why not hire Henny as the quarterback's coach? You still got the vet in the room. You have the young backup on the field, and he's helping both. And there's somebody that not only Mahomes can throw ideas off of, but him and Henny could teach the young backup. So when it's time to go into games, he's prepared. I mean, obviously they see something in this. Is it Buechele? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Steve.
Obviously they obviously see something in him that they signed him to the 53. So I think Henny knows his time is numbered anyway. You'll still get a good contract worth millions to be Mahomes' coach. So then you've got the best of both worlds. You kind of mold the two together. Vet QB in the QB room as the coach, young backup to learn in case something, God forbid, something happens to Mahomes. And that's where I would go. If I was coaching or running a team, that's what I would do. My QB coach would be the vet coach. I'd have my starter, my franchise, and then I'd have my backup.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with that. Going to throw in some corrections here. And Gucci pointed out one of the things that I was going to say. It's Shane. Steve was his father who played baseball. I only know that because he played for the Cubs. And
Very good.
so, yeah, I mean, Gooch brought it up, but I think there's something there because they've 4 or 5 weeks, if I recall correctly, they designated Buechele as one of their players that they were protecting on the practice squad, and then they signed him up to the active roster because another team actually offered him, the Cardinals, maybe another team, offered him an actual NFL contract, and so they signed him up to the 53. And I think there's something there where, he could have went ahead and signed with the Cardinals, right? The Chiefs couldn't have stopped him from signing with the Cardinals. And so I think there's something there. I think that would have required, maybe not a promise for next year, but at least he has some kind of hope that he has a future on this roster, that he chose to be the third quarterback on our 53 instead of being the second quarterback or potentially getting a start on another team who's had injury issues this year. So I do think there's something there, and I do think that he would be the young quarterback, at least for next year possibly. Not that they don't always still bring in another quarterback or two for competition. Um, anyway, and Gooch, I think there's a strong possibility there if we do see Bieniemy go, and Kafka moves up the line and he becomes the offensive coordinator next year. You got to replace him, with someone anyway. And if he wants to retire, and stay in the organization and get paid if he has a desire to coach, well, I mean, there you go. I do think, because we try to keep it balanced, I do think one of the arguments against this isn't the one that Jacobs himself offered, but I think the one big argument against this is your backup quarterback is your scout team quarterback, right? And so, one of the good backup quarterbacks for this purpose anyway is Brian Hoyer. And there were teams that brought him in. I think the 49ers brought him in constantly because he played with the Patriots for so long. So, he knew the Patriots' offensive tendencies and things like that. So that's like one of those edges you can get, on certain teams is, whoever your big competition is or who you expect to be playing in the playoffs or the Super Bowl. If you want to maximize your scout team looks, right, then you might want a vet quarterback for those reasons. But I think for all the reasons we've already all mentioned, I think we're kind of all in agreement of young backup quarterback. If Bieniemy moves on and Kafka moves up the ranks, we wouldn't mind having Henne be the quarterback coach next year. From an ability standpoint, not many quarterback coaches, or even certainly not backup quarterbacks because they're backups, can really relate to Mahomes' ability and the things that he's doing and seeing on the field, which I think is one of the points that Gooch was hitting on is, they don't see the game the way Mahomes does. So, there's got to be you have to have some really strong veteran strengths to even be a help as Mahomes' backup quarterback. I think is what Gooch was saying. Is that what you were saying, Gooch? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the fix there, Mr. Keys. I don't know what I was thinking, Steve versus Shane. You're absolutely right.
Well, I mean, you
That's
had one
right.
right. That there is Steve. So
Like you have to. Yeah, look, Keys is gonna know that obscure fact because he roots for the Hawkeyes and the Cubs.
There you go.
I mean, just
What's
couldn't be
crazy is,
anything like the Chiefs and Royals. Shameless plug, KC.
yeah,
I'm
Michelle's
a
listed.
Yankees fan.
Yeah, Michelle's listed at 6 foot 205. That's getting into a Heineke type of stats there, and it's interesting to me that more and more teams are willing to keep around somebody that's not 6'4" and 225.
yeah, that not to get sidetracked, but is that kind of an effect of Russell Wilson's success?
Man, I don't know. You could get into a whole thread sidebar about the college game
Well,
affecting the pro game, and that's what's available. So teams get enamored with these smaller quarterbacks.
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm with him. Like, look, everybody was looking for the next Joe Montana. Then everybody was looking for that statuesque quarterback, which you realize that Brady's the last one left. Then everybody was looking for the next Russell Wilson. Now everybody's looking for the next Mahomes. If Kyler continues on this trend, you can be 5'7" and play quarterback in the NFL. Everybody will be looking for the next Kyler because you can hide behind those 6'5" linemen, and can't nobody see you until the ball's coming out. I mean, it's advantage. It helps
Yeah, I mean,
though
he's
that
got
Kyler
that
really.
disease point
Yeah, it helps that Kyler is really. It's funny because coming out of the same system, the one thing they said about Baker was he was super accurate. I mean, but Kyler actually is as accurate as he was in college. I mean, that kid can put the ball where it's supposed to be. So I mean, I guess it helps that you've got what you don't lack, what you don't have in height, you make up for in excellent speed and pinpoint accuracy. Everybody's looking for the next Lamar too, but people don't realize that only Lamar can run the offense that Lamar is running. I mean, there's only one. Is it Greg Roman Keys? You know that guy's name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's only one Greg Roman and Lamar. There's not going to be another one of them. I'm surprised that one of the Harbaugh bros, I'm sure, is it John? I think Jim's in Michigan, right? God,
Yeah.
I mean, he saved his job, or Lamar saved his job with this weird offense. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I'm still where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, no two quarterbacks are quicker than Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. I mean, those guys are so incredibly quick. Nobody can get a hit on them.
You know what's weird about that, though, is they call Lamar I'm gonna steal a phrase from Keys, the running back who plays quarterback.
Yeah.
And then they actually consider Kyler the quarterback. But they have generally the same skill set. I mean, obviously Kyler is more accurate. I'm not saying Lamar is not as accurate as Kyler, but Lamar makes up for it. But he's got Michael Vick speed. I mean, so this is game changers. Mahomes is cannon, and his uncanny eyesight, and I mean that's one. I mean the game is being taken over by these young studs, and I honestly see like what was it was man it was the it was Montana Kelly or Montana Aikman. Either way, but you had Brady and Manning, and I actually think Mahomes versus the field for the next 15 years. I don't think he has one rival. I think he has 12 rivals.
Yeah, I mean, we got excellent quarterback play until the next Obama administration. We're sitting good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, Gooch, you said you had to bring up the Cubs and go there. So,
here go the HGs. The HGs.
let me go a little Jeff on you here. A little trivia factoid for you. Both Patrick Mahomes and Shane Buechele, two of our three quarterbacks, both of their fathers played for the Chicago Cubs.
Whoa.
Pat Mahomes Sr. was a pitcher for the Cubs. Among his stops in the NFL, he was a pitcher for about 4 or 5 or 6 teams.
Yeah.
And one of those stops was with the Cubs. So, both men's fathers played for the Cubs. I'd have to look it up. I don't believe it was at the same time though.
So what you're saying is there's a little insider baseball, is what you're saying.
You know what? I don't know. I'm just throwing that one out there.
All right.
Very nicely done.
Very nicely done.
Yeah, I feel good about the Denver game, guys. I'm going to be there. Hopefully, the weather's going to be good. It'll be the first Chiefs game that I've been to in probably 16 years, 17 years. So I'm excited.
You're going to love it.
Yeah, it's been like 24 years for me. So,
I'm going to take Keys to the game either this year or next year. Me and Keys are going to go. Poor Keys, man. That kid needs to get to a game. I'm going to take him.
Nice.
I'll set up in Jordan Love's mom seats.
No, baby. We don't sit up that high. we don't sit that high. Look, the last time I even sat out in the stadium, we broke the noise record. After that day and that wind whipping around the stadium, I was like, With this, I need a box.
Gooch retired. Yeah,
I
I'm
could
sure the
drop
cold wind on your old arthritic bones just too much.
That's
Gooch.
right. That's right.
I
But
could
I had.
drop
Go
the
ahead.
best Chiefs Broncos game that I went to was the Montana Elway Monday Night Football game in '94, and
Nice.
I was wearing a one piece hunting orange jumpsuit, right? So I was blending in well with all the Bronco fans, looking around, making sure nobody was gonna open a can of you know what on me. And as the Chiefs moved the ball down the field there in the fourth period, I was looking around at all the Broncos fans. Just relax, everybody. We don't have any timeouts. Denver always beats us. Don't worry about it. It's fine. We're gonna lose. Here we came down the field, and then the tight end for us, number 82, caught the ball down at the 2, and we called our last timeout, and good grief, that was an amazing game to watch.
I think I watched that game on TV. That was a good game.
So what Jeff's saying is he's guaranteeing a win Sunday night.
Jeff is guaranteeing a win.
110%.
You heard it here first, folks. Right here on that.
Well, this next topic and potentially our last topic here is just kind of a survey of our fan opinion on things. Is it really true that all's well that ends well? All that really matters is that we enjoy the winning. It doesn't matter if we struggle. If at the end of the day we come out with a win here and there, we make the playoffs. Whatever the case is, that all that matters is that W, or all that matters is watching our team and supporting our team. And I'll go first just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. But I think it's important as we continue to look at what it means to be a fan, and I think we kind of address this in each of our episodes, since this is a fan-driven and fan-focused show. Is the way that I look at this is if you're going on a vacation, you should enjoy that vacation. You know, there are different people out there. There are people who take the scenic route so they can stop through every little town, stop at every little, scenic side road, historical marker, do all these different things and enjoy the journey that way. There are people who just get on the interstate and they want to get to their destination spot, going 65, 70, which is completely understandable when you're driving through Nebraska. Um, and just get there and then you relax, and then there's people who just fly there, or if you take Amtrak and you don't have to worry about the stress of driving, you just look out your windows and enjoy the beautiful scenery on your way to your destination. So we have different kinds of personalities, and I may have left out another kind of type there. But if you're driving, and this is where I think that kind of, Gooch and I come in at to an extent. If you're driving, one of the things you have to do is, or you should do, if you're smart, is you take your car to the mechanic for a trip inspection. You make sure that your car is tuned up, it has all the fluids it needs, its tires are great, an expert has looked over everything to make sure that your vehicle is safe to get you to your destination, right? And so for me, that's kind of an analogy for us of what it's like to enjoy your team, but still be critical of those things, right? Because ultimately, our destination should be the Super Bowl, right? And so, if you use the one analogy of the person who takes the scenic routes and stops in every small town, that's each individual game that we play, enjoying each win. But, when we're critical with those wins, that's kind of like, well, I'm feeling a little shimmy on the car here as I pull into this, town. So I take it to the mechanic to just make sure everything's okay. If you find out, okay, you need a new tire because you have some tread coming off, or you have some wearing here on your inner wall, you get the tire replaced. You don't just say, you know what, it's okay, we made it here thus far safely. That's all that matters is we made it here, so we'll be good to go to the next town. We'll make it to the next state. And so, that's kind of what I want to say here is that's how I view enjoying the destination while also being, critical of the things that we see here. And so, I think at the end, if you got to your destination and you found out that your engine was, could have blown for the last 2,000 miles, I think that your ride back might be kind of expensive and stressful.
All right. You mentioned, the inner wall wearing. I haven't had my inner wall worn in a couple of weeks now. Oh, but I,
Thank you,
yeah,
thank you. He's here all week. Make
I
sure you tip your
am.
waitresses.
That's right. 2 drink minimum. I think that it's important for fans to realize that if your team makes it to the playoffs, every team loses their last game except for one. And obviously, you want to win the Super Bowl. It's really hard to win the Super Bowl. Good grief, it's hard. You look at the last 25 or 30 years, and there's this handful of teams, right, that have either played in it or won it. And there's still, what, 5 teams in the NFL or 6 that have never, ever won a Super Bowl. So it's important to get that, that just because the media says, well, it's Super Bowl or bust for, Team X, and your team doesn't win the Super Bowl, it doesn't mean the season wasn't fun or successful. And so for me, I choose to enjoy the journey and yeah, have a hot take and try
He
to
knows.
be
He knows it's
what's
coming.
that?
That's why he's doing
That's right. So yeah, I think that's enough said about that. It's it's tough to ride through a season when you're 2-14, but if one of those wins was over the Green Bay Packers, baby, it was very much worth it. Go Gooch.
it. And I'm going to use the car analogy because it almost fits perfectly into this topic. Friday, uh, I had landed in New York, but I had to land on the outskirts, basically on the border almost because of the weather. And so, with the highways being iced over and some of them being down, we drove through the majority of the state of New York. Now, one of the things that was really cool about that is that people tend to miss the forest for the trees. You're driving through here, and I'm seeing neat stuff. Like old buildings or old businesses that are still running in some different small towns throughout, the state that you want to pull over, you want to look at. And then when you pull away, okay, you had fun in this town looking at stuff, and you go to the next town and you be like, oh man, you know what? That town would have been better if it would have carried this drink that I like or whatever. But it was still, it was still a spot, which could be a loss on a football season. So you're like, oh, what could have made that better? You're just fixing yourself. Then you go on to the next one. I think, and to incorporate what Jeff said, only one team wins the last game of the year. Everybody loses. So you have to enjoy the journey because you're playing a game that 99% of the world cannot play. And you have been blessed to make a living at it. And it's not even about the money, but you're doing something that you've loved from a little kid all the way up till now. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, I mean, let's take Dan Marino. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl, but he loved the game. Now, sure, he'd say, I'd love a Super Bowl trophy, but he wouldn't change his career for nothing because the journey was great. It had its ups, its downs. It was a second role in life. I mean, obviously he's doing fine, but it's like it can't be about everybody's goal is the Super Bowl. But if you don't enjoy getting there, when you win, how are you going to enjoy that? Because you didn't stop to smell the roses, or embrace the pitfalls, or enjoy the highs all the way there. It's robot all the way through. I want to win the Super Bowl. Now I want a Super Bowl. What do I do? So I think all's well that ends well is great, but I think you have to enjoy it, because if if anything, your career in that game is over like that. You know what I'm saying? And then what?
Yes.
You didn't get to enjoy none of it, and now you're out of it, and now you're bitter because you didn't get to enjoy any of it, and it was cut short. I just I just really think you just should enjoy the journey, even as fans. Look, I've been a Chiefs fan for a long time. You guys have been Chiefs fans for a long time. We have suffered through some losing seasons, but like you said, we could have been 3-13, but we got that win over the Broncos in Mile High, so that made the season worth it for me.
Right.
We just started winning, and some of us are new to this. It's like I was telling me and Keys did on the huddle. A lot of the Patriots fans are only Patriots fans from the last 20 years. Nobody's talking about to the players before then when they were getting blown out by Favre in the Super Bowl, or they had losing seasons or whatever. I was a fan of them then. Like, I've been a Chiefs fan because of my father, but I liked Kevin Falk, and those boys when nobody had the stupid man on the helmet. um, so I mean, I just think you should enjoy it. Even as fans, you should enjoy it. The Chiefs had a losing streak. Okay, it doesn't make us toxic that we want them to do better. We want them to play well. We want them to win. We're already at a disadvantage because nobody looks at the Chiefs. Even though the Chiefs are one of the flagship franchises, which we are, Cowboys, Chiefs, Packers, Bears. Like, we've been around a long time, and we're not looked at as like the rest of them. Middle of the country, small market. Some people would call us hillbillies or whatever like that. This is honest. Like, um, and for us to finally be winning, it's even Colin Cowherd said when Kansas City is winning, everything is right in the world, because you got your big markets, you got your small markets, you got your middle of the map. Um, Kansas City, Green Bay, when they're winning, everything's right with football, because there should be parity and everything like that. Um, but I went off on this tangent. I'm just saying, like, even as fans, football players, you should enjoy it, because you never know when you're going to see your last football game. You never know when your career is going to be over. You know what I'm saying? You want to hold on to those, enjoy it, and have memories that you're proud to look back on. That's my take.
Now, Reese Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Jesus. Ricky Bobby. I'm going to make a
No,
correction
no,
on him.
no, you're not. Go back and watch. It was Reese Bobby telling Ricky as a kid, if you ain't first, you're last.
Second place is first loser, right?
Right.
It's
So,
it's funny because nobody ever remembers the name of the runners up of the championship game, which is odd.
right.
I mean, except for
Yeah,
me, San Francisco.
I think it's interesting because, as fans, we all do, we all do have different personalities. And, we used the vacation analogy, and I think it fits because, each of our preferences, and not just the three of us, but, there- all of us, our preferences are different, the way that we view things and we approach things. And, I think there's some extent to where, 50 years kind of weighs on you, and you don't really enjoy that journey, and you don't really appreciate Super Bowl 54 win enough as a fan, because you're rooting for your team to win because it's been 50 years, right? and you've seen other AFC West foes, you know, uh, other AFC West foes win a Super Bowl. And so, like I have a unique experience, you know, as a Cubs fan of when the Cubs won the World Series in 2016, it was, the pressure of 108 years. And so at some point it becomes about, you know, not winning because I'm a fan of the team and it's enjoyable, but winning the World Series just so that that whole slate can be erased and fans of other teams have to shut up, right? And so, I think there's some of that in here as Chiefs fans because it had been 50 years. And even though you're right, there are teams that still have never even won a Super Bowl. And some teams had to skip town, Browns, to win a Super Bowl. There's
It's
as
amazing.
fans, there can be a lot of pressure to where it's not enjoyable, and then you have someone like Patrick Mahomes come in, and it looks like you're guaranteed to be the next football dynasty, and so I think that can make it a lot harder to enjoy the games. But the reality is, and one of the things that I had the opportunity to reflect on as a Cubs fan is, you know, we had a very young core of superstars on that team, and it looked like the next dynasty. And all of those guys are gone now, 5 years later.
Yeah.
And so, I think there has to be a balancing point. Obviously, you play to win, right? Players move on so
Oh,
quickly. Players move on so quickly, in every sport. And it's hard to just enjoy each year's collective units of guys coming together, for this sole purpose of trying to win it all. That we can get lost. And I think that there should be some kind of balance because I don't think football is just a sport meant to entertain us week after week. If that's what you want, you shouldn't be a fan of a team anyway. You can just watch 4 or 5 games throughout the week and just watch football if all you want to be is entertained. So I think you should still want to see your team win. You should still kind of get pissed off when they don't win, and you should still want them to try to win. If not, I've said it before, you have lots of teams you can root for if you don't care about winning. You can become a Jags fan, you can become a Lions fan, you can become a Raiders fan. I mean, there's plenty of teams to choose from. A Jets fan, you know. So
or
I
you
think there
can
has to
kindly
be some
leave.
balance. Now we
Kindly
don't say
leave.
that here. You can kindly stay because this we're not gonna say you have to be this kind of fan. I mean, that's not. We want to embrace the different perspectives and understand the different fan perspectives out there. So, even if we disagree with something, we all have our opinions on these things. Um, we're still part
Can
of Chiefs Kingdom and
can I
this rogue
interject something
family.
real quick? Can
Go
I
ahead.
interject something real quick? And we were doing something. I'm gonna let Jeff get the last word, but I just want Jeff said something that I think as fans, and if you're watching this, you're gonna hate me for saying this, but the Super Bowl is hard, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Kelly, one of the greatest quarterbacks in history, went to four straight and lost all four. Doesn't take away from his greatness, but you got to understand how hard that is and what the Chiefs are trying to do, why it's only been done a couple of times. Because the mental fortitude, the physical toll it takes on the body, the fact that you play more games, and I actually did the math and I meant to bring it up. Over the course of the last 3 years, the Chiefs have played almost a half a season more than everybody else
Yes.
because they are the one of the last teams every year the last 3 years.
Yep.
And if you don't think that that takes a toll, you've got 300-pound men who can run 40 yards in less than 5 seconds and put all that weight behind the hit. If you don't think it takes toll on the human body wasn't built to be hit like that. And our guys have done it for a half a season longer than everybody else, which means shortened off-season time, which means shortened healing time, more time trying to recoup, less time trying to recuperate before they're right back at it. So although we're called toxic, because let's face it, some of us actually are, but they don't understand the rigors that this takes. Like this, it's a game, yes, but there are lives being put on the line every time those guys put on helmets. You know what I'm saying? So appreciation, maybe a little respect, you know what I'm saying? And just enjoy it. Be a fan of your team, but enjoy the fact that these guys are out there doing this, not only to feed their families, but one, because they love it, and two, because you love it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just wanted to put that in there. Sorry.
So what I hear you saying, Gooch, here before we go over to Jeff, is that you really are a fan of Daniel Sorensen and respect all that he's done.
Sweet. Sweet Jesus. You lucky this is live. I can't cuss.
That is what you just said, though, right? We have to respect Daniel Sorensen because he's played half a season longer than normal players. Normal players, and he's had all those clutch plays over the last few years, and so
I respect the fact that somehow he managed to swindle somebody, my team, to keep him on the team for 3 years longer than he should have been. And there is respect for that. Because he is the only man that could happen to pull off that magic trick. Because if he was on anybody else's team, even the Jets, he'd already be on the bench and gone. Jeff, final word, brother, what you got?
I don't really have much else on the old journey thing. I thought that was an excellent question, an excellent discussion topic, and yeah, it's something that you can think about throughout the season. You can get frustrated with your team, but just hang in there with them, and do what works for you. Like you said, you can be entertained, you can follow your team closely, or you can live and die with them on. Man, I was that way. I lived in Phoenix for a few years when the Suns were really good in the early '90s, and there was a point I was standing up just screaming at the TV. My hands were up in front, and I was losing my mind, and I kind of looked around. My goodness, I think I need to take a Valium and just relax just a little bit here. And that was kind of a turning point in my sports viewership. You just enjoy your team and root them on and have a good time.
Was that the Steve Nash Stoudemire sons?
No, that was the Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley sons.
Ooh, Thunder
Jeff
Dan
Hornacek.
Marley, Barkley,
Yeah,
Barkley,
yeah,
Hornacek, KK. That's
yeah.
a good team.
Kevin Johnson
No,
was the man. He was amazing.
I was a Bulls fan though, so
right. I was gonna say, it didn't matter who was on those teams. You were facing Michael Jordan, and you weren't winning. So
Yeah, that's right. That is
see, and
right.
that's what. Not to steal Jeff's last word, but that's what a huge bunch of our fandom wants other teams to face is Patrick Mahomes to be Michael Jordan in the football world.
There you go.
there's only one Thanos, bro. And he was 6'6" and played guard for the Chicago Bulls. Yes.
Oh, whatever you guys do, however you look at being a fan, realize that this exact team as it is right now, and we don't know what the off-season re-signing situations are going to be like. This this exact iteration of the team, we're only going to see it for this season, and next year there will be changes on the team. So, enjoy that, embrace that. You can still be mad when they lose. You can still, correctly say if you ain't first or last, whatever it is. But try to find some balance. I just don't like extremes one way or the other. So when I get going one way, I try to correct myself and end up in the middle. But it doesn't always
That's
happen.
my job, gentlemen. That's why we have the huddle.
Well, Jeff, we thank you for being our special guest this week, and we thank you guys for uh, viewing with us. We don't want you to forget to hit the like, to subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to RGR, we're just one show that's allowed to be on throughout the week. And so hit that bell, hit the like button, and Gooch, go ahead and send us off here.
Once again, we appreciate anybody who watches this content, whether religiously or in passing. I obviously want to thank Jeff. Jeff's the man. We should do this again. Check out the RGR store, live streams on Monday, Chiefman North on Thursday. Once again, everybody has their own opinions. Let's be nice to each other, especially in this time where COVID is still running rampant. Make sure you tell somebody you love them. I'm serious about that. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Peace out, guys.
Peace.
Later.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.